Hey, Compelling Church! Welcome to another Thursday night. Let me know as soon as you hop on if I can interact with you throughout the video. I'd love to do that. Sorry we're a little bit behind. I had a little bit of issues getting the live feed to work, but I'm here. So join me as we do another week going through Invitality. I'm really excited. The more I just dive into this book, I'm growing so much as a person, and I hope you are joining me. If you haven't got yourself a copy, get yourself a copy. These videos are not just for me, they're for you too. So we want you guys to be reading along. All I do is hit a couple points that Pastor Adam talks about in the books. Otherwise, I want you guys to be reading them, spending time in prayer, letting God open your hearts about having a mind of invitality. So before we dive in, I just want to remind everybody that Compelling Church has been having these Koinonia nights. They've been wonderful. I'm super pumped about them. We've been doing them on Wednesday nights, about every other Wednesday night. The last one was last night. It was so much fun. Just having time, fellowshipping with people, and just building new relationships. Honestly, I love people. I love being around people. So the Koinonia nights have, for me personally, have just been a blessing. I've just got to interact with other people in the other members in the church, and just started developing more relationships, and it's been great. So our next one is the 17th. So they're Wednesday nights, every other Wednesday night. Get on Compelling Church's Facebook. We make posts about them as well as online. They're great. They're awesome. And I promise you'll have a great time if you come join us. Also, we meet on Sundays at 10 a.m. at Hotel Renovo. So if you're in the area, come join us. We would love to have you guys. All right, so I'm just gonna dive right in. I'm so excited for the people who've joined. I see you guys. If there's anybody else, feel free to comment. Let's have some interaction throughout the night. This week, we're talking about true worship. It's the 3rd chapter. So this is our 4th week doing these videos, but this is the 3rd chapter. So if you haven't read them yet, you have some time to catch up with us and even get ahead for next week. Again, this is Pastor Adam Hershey's book, Invitality. We're going through these every week, going through each chapter, touching a little bit on some key points that he talks about in that chapter. And at the end, we'll have a question to kind of stew over for you tonight or even throughout the week, and some suggestions for prayers and prayer about the topic that we talk about, as well as a challenge. So last week, the first week, we did a challenge of writing down people that God puts on your heart that maybe he wants you to invite to church or just start to develop a relationship with him. So if you got a chance to write down some people and you've had a testimony, share in the comments. I want to know what's going on in your guys' lives. So let us know if anything happened. And then last week we challenged you to that if you have just to invite people into your life, just to start developing, praying and asking God to show you how to be more open in that area, and then inviting people in. So again, if you have any testimonies or anything, share in the comments. We want to hear what's going on in your guys' lives, how this book is changing your life. And now we got a power-packed chapter 3, true worship. That's what we're going to go through tonight. And I'm super excited to hear how this chapter impacts your life and how you think about it this week moving forward. So the first couple points that I'm going to talk about. So Pastor Adam in chapter 3 talks about worship in the beginning. And really, I love this because he makes you think, like, what do you think worship is? When people think about worship, they think about what happens in the church, the praise and worship, church services, worship services, that singing, maybe dancing, but worship goes beyond that. Worship can be so much more than that. Tithe and offerings can be worship. But really, the key points that Pastor Adam makes in his book is that worship really comes down to our attitudes and the words that come out of our mouth, and really our whole life. It should be a life of worship, right? It's not just, it goes so much further than what happens in church. Church is only Sundays for Compelling Church, Sundays, and sometimes the Koinonia nights. Other churches might have other services, but it goes beyond the walls of what happens at church. It's a lifestyle, right? Worship is bringing honor, reverence to God, and we do that with our lives. Now, when I was reading this chapter, part of me just starts thinking, okay, the pressure of like, I have to be perfect kind of starts to come on, but that's not what this is about. And I really encourage you to read this section of the chapter and let God open your eyes about what he's talking about with worship. And Pastor Adam mentioned something in the book about worship within this, that just to pray, spend some time in the Word and pray and lay this at the altar with God and just say, Lord, I want to live a lifestyle of worship. And maybe you're struggling, but show me where I can work on some areas. How can I have a lifestyle of worship? And just pray and give it to God. Let him show you and let him mold you. Let him speak to you about areas of that you can grow in, and attitudes that you might not be having that are not true worship. And just let him work in your life in that area, just to show you how to have a life of true worship. So, and then he starts to move on to testifying the goodness of God. And I really like his example in the book. In the book, he talks about testifying is really just talking about the goodness of anything, really. But we're obviously talking about the goodness of God. But he brings up an example of brownies. His wife made him a pot of brownies, and he just goes into detail about how good these brownies are and how much he wanted to eat these brownies. And then she put marshmallows on top of them and put them back in the oven, and they came out all gooey, and they're just really appealing. And obviously he didn't have to explain too much to you about the description of these brownies before you already wanted. Now when I was reading it, I was starting to crave brownies. I haven't had brownies in like months, and all of a sudden I want some brownies. And honestly, it's the same thing about God. Like, it should be easy to talk about how good he is, because he's good. And it should be so easy just to share what he's doing in your life. Kind of how easy it is to talk about like the best brownies you had last night. Honestly, I feel like I'm known to do this. Like, I'm like free advertisement for like almost any product or anything that I try, because if I love it, like, I will tell everybody about it. And really, it should be the same way about our relationship with God. We should be like free advertisement for how good God is. He is so good. And it should be so easy just to share with or testify. It's really just sharing the goodness of God with the people around you in your life, and just letting God use that to minister and to evangelize people. So all right, so yeah, he talks about how our words are, let me tie in the testifying to worship. So a big way we can live a lifestyle of worship is through our words and our conversations. And so how we can do that is just testifying about God, the goodness of God, using our conversations with people and our words to testify about the goodness of God. So yeah, and that's just an easy practical application of how you can start to live a lifestyle of worship. So let's, for this week, just ask God to ask him to show you, have you been living a lifestyle of worship, and or what are some areas you can work on to really focus on honoring and worshiping God with your lifestyle, your words, your conversations. And so ask him to show you those things. Also, I would spend time in prayer and just ask him to mold your mind about having this lifestyle of vitality, inviting people into your life, into the church. For us, for me, it's Compelling Church, inviting people into Compelling Church, or for you, if you're not a member of Compelling Church, inviting people into your church. This isn't just for Compelling Church. This message is for anybody who is a believer, who wants to testify and evangelize to the people around him. But of course, if you're in the area, we would love you to come to Compelling Church. And then, okay, the challenge this week. So this week, make sure you do your challenge. Write down 3 things that God has done for you. If you write these down, I find that when I write down testimonies and stuff, they're easy to come think about or talk about or share with people because you've already been thinking about it. So once God does something in your life, something good, just write it down, and that way it'll be fresh in your memory, and it might just come up in conversation. So I really encourage you. I love doing this in general, so this shouldn't be a challenge just for this week, but for this week, if you have never done this, I really encourage you at least 3 for the whole week. But if not, I would challenge you to write 3 a day. 3 things that God's doing in your life. And I wonder if you'll see yourself talking about how good he is more in your conversations. I would love to hear next week if you have had more conversations about how good God is. Just by simply thinking and meditating on the things that he's doing in your life. So, all right, so that's the challenge. And if you haven't done any of the other challenges, I encourage you to hop on. Also, if you have not gotten this book, get the book, read along with us, read the chapters along with us so you know what I'm talking about before I'm actually talking about it. All right, so this week was chapter 3, True Worship. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I love interacting with you guys. I see a lot of comments. I get easily distracted, so it's really funny doing this. I see a lot of comments. I see a lot of hearts and likes. I love spending time with you guys. This is truly enjoyable for me to spend time with you guys. Don't forget to make comments or share experiences, anything that God's doing, how this book is impacting your life. It's certainly impacting mine. It's igniting a fire for people inside of me, and I know it's going to do the same for you. Well, that is all we have for this Thursday night. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday. Have a good rest of your night.